Hello, fellow COVID hostages. This is Dr. David Gabriel, naturopathic doctor and registered acupuncturist. I just want to drop a short video today on inflammation and the things you can do to avoid it. Now, a lot of people come to my clinic and they have inflammatory conditions such as arthritis or just chronic injuries or some other internal problems that are related to inflammation. And sometimes they don't understand that there's certain things that they do in their lives that contribute to the inflammation, mainly lifestyle and diet. So let's start with diet. So these are some of the main things that you can eat that would exacerbate your inflammation, give you more inflammation. So the first thing for sure that has to be mentioned is sugar. So just straight white sugar in your coffee, something like that. Pastries, cakes, sweets, cookies, things like that. These foods have just a high sugar content, and you just want to avoid those if you want to bring down your inflammation. Overlapping with that category would be refined carbohydrates. A lot of refined carbohydrates have sugar added as well, so they're like a donut or a cake or something like that. Sweet bread, crackers, things like this. Refined carbohydrates you want to avoid. And if you're looking at your weight too, and you want to reduce your weight, cutting down on refined carbohydrates and sugars, that's a really good strategy. Vegetable oils is another thing you probably want to avoid when you're cooking because they're very high in omega-6 fatty acids and it can cause more inflammation. So things like canola oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, those types of vegetable oils you want to avoid. If you can, replace them with something healthy like grapeseed oil, and you can also have olive oil, but just want to do a little caveat. You don't really want to be cooking with extra virgin olive oil because it's a very delicate oil. That's why it's called extra virgin. And you don't want to really do any kind of heavy, high heat frying with it. At the most, what I would suggest is just a very light, low heat, very quick fry, like a stir fry or something like that with some tasty vegetables. But I would avoid that too. What you can do, because olive oil is very anti-inflammatory and fantastic for your health, is use it as a finishing oil. You can put on top of your vegetables after they're cooked. You can put on top of your salad. You can even put on top of your meats. But I would avoid cooking with it. Grapeseed oil is good to cook with. Also, coconut oil. Processed meats you want to avoid if you want to try and cut down on inflammation. Things like bacon, deli meats, pepperoni, salami, these types of foods. You really want to cut down on them. They're inflammatory for a lot of reasons. One point I would like to discuss would be the heavy use of preservatives when it comes to like deli meats and bacon and things like that. Now, if you are a fan of deli meats, what I would suggest is don't eat them in excess. If you're going to eat a little bit of them, then try to avoid as best you can the types of deli meats where they grind up the meat and then press them together and then slice it, like I think I just mentioned it, salami, pepperoni, other ones like that, because they have to put a lot of preservatives inside the meat. So it's on the outside of the meat, all inside the meat, there's a high content. But there's other cured meats where they just get like, a thigh of a certain animal, and they cure it and then they slice it. So it's actually a solid piece of meat. It hasn't been ground up. I hope you know what I'm saying here. So that preservatives are not so much in the meat, they're more around the meat. So there's less, so it's a little bit better for you. So something to keep in mind. But in general, processed meats, you want to keep that to a minimum. And if you have a lot of inflammation, you might want to just try for a certain stint just to get rid of them altogether. Trans fats. Now, are you still using margarine? Probably shouldn't be. Butter's not so bad, actually, it turns out, and as long as you don't go crazy with it. So I would avoid the margarine. Other places where you get trans fat would be in restaurant foods, because they're just, they're more worried about how things taste and how quickly they can do it. Also, things that are easily spreadable, like Kraft peanut butter or Nutella, unfortunately. These things have also trans fat, so you want to avoid that so you don't increase your inflammation. Now, excess alcohol will increase your inflammation, and there's a lot to be said for that. I won't go on a tangent on alcohol. A glass of red wine with dinner once in a while, totally fine. It's the excess part that's the problem. And then there's more than that, but those are the main things when it comes to your diet that really kicks up your inflammation that you'd want to avoid. The other thing that has to do more with your lifestyle is stress. So this is obviously easier said than done, and I could probably just do a video on stress, but I just want to mention that if you do have a lot of stress, whether it's at work or it's at home or some other source, you want to try and rectify that problem, solve that problem. What exactly is causing the stress? Okay, now, like I said, it's easier said than done. Sometimes we have, for example, we have a stressful job. We don't have the ability or the opportunity to change jobs or change position in jobs or solve that problem. In the cases, so if you can solve that problem to reduce your stress, that's great. If you really can't, and I understand that sometimes you can't, then what I would suggest is look at some techniques that can lower your stress outside of solving the problem. For example, regular exercise. Regular exercise is so important for so many reasons. I got to do a video on that too, just talking about exercise. Also things like meditation, huge for reducing your stress. So that's pretty much all I want to say. I want to just kind of go over some of the main things that cause inflammation in people's everyday diets, and also about the stress, trying to keep that stress down. And that's about it for me. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Have a good day.